It's a sprint weekend, it's a triple header, and we have a triple world champion. The Aston Saga continues. All is not well at Red Bull Racing. Guess who's back? And we're in Merica. Let's go racing.
They exist in a world beyond ours. This is Formula One.
Hello everybody and welcome to the LGR F1 show, coming to you live from our bespoke Suzuki dealership in the Menlyn Shopping Centre. I must say, a little bit earlier we had the Penta Rugby Bokke coming in here to shoot themselves a little promo video. Watch on your Instagram for those feeds as well. And Penta, by the way, have got some incredible specials during the Bokke Festival. Good luck this weekend. Going to be an amazing test match against England. Anyway, howdy partner. Yes, we're in Texas this weekend, in Austin, one of the big cities of Texas. Did you know, if Texas was a country, it would be the 40th largest country in the world. In Texas alone, one of the states, which is it's the second biggest state. I think Alaska is the biggest state. Second biggest state in the United States. 30 million people live in Texas. Anyway, a little bit more on the USA Grand Prix a little later. Back to Qatar. What a weekend, just crazy. We had limited tire test runs. They had to pit 3 times. We had exhaustive heat, lots of dehydration and brilliance from Max and the McLaren boys. What a podium it was. Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, and of course, Lando Norris. The heat, was it dangerous? Should these be things that the FIA need to consider? We had many drivers coming out saying that sometimes going through the high-speed corners, they actually would, I wouldn't say black out, but they became incredibly dizzy. It's incredibly hot in those cars. Maybe they need to put Qatar a little bit later on in the calendar year when it is a little bit cooler in that state. Something that they've got to consider, or otherwise drivers just need to get fitter. I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look at how the drivers fared in the Qatar Grand Prix. There we go, Max Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, brilliant drive from Valtteri Bottas. Ocon was up there. George Russell, after coming together with Lewis, drove well. Zhou, Albon, as always, we're always going to find up there. And then, of course, Leclerc and Alonso. That's how people came out with their driver ranking. Now, McLaren is definitely a team on the up. And it's not only the drivers. In that searing heat in Qatar, a new pit stop record was achieved by the McLaren team. And of course, we all watch Formula One, and you watch these guys come in. The car was stationary for 1.8 seconds. That's all. The time that it stopped, the time that the 4 tires were put on, and the time that it left was 1.8 seconds. Now let's just try and do that quickly here. Okay, hold on. I've got a stopwatch on my, here we go. Go, go. That's it. That's how fast that pit stop was. I mean, it's just incredible. Well done to McLaren. And just considering the conditions that they were under as well. Max became world champion in the sprint race, but we mustn't forget that Oscar Piastri in McLaren won the sprint race. And he has won a race before Lando Norris. Surely that is going to irk Lando quite a lot. Carlos Sainz, you remember, well, Danny Ricciardo won at McLaren before Lando, and now Oscar Piastri. Ooh, I wouldn't want to be Lando Norris at the moment. He is a triple world champion. There he is, Max Verstappen. He is the X factor in Formula One, and he is the man to beat. We know that if we take Max out of the equation, we've got an unbelievable fight between Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and McLaren. But Max is the X factor, and he is the man to beat. And as long as Red Bull continue to produce the car that they have produced, something similar to this year going forward, it's going to take one heck of a driver and one heck of a team to beat him. Coming up, we've got news, and some more news. Yeah, welcome back. We are looking forward to the USA Grand Prix, the Circuit of the Americas, but that's coming up later on in the show. As I mentioned, we've got a triple header. We've got United States, then we have got Mexico, and then of course Brazil. 3 in a row. So Bernie Ecclestone, is he 92 or 93? I think he's 92, nearly 93. Got a slap on the wrist and a bit of a fine. Like 600 million pound fine. Okay, work that out. It's 12 billion rand. After not declaring that he had a trust in Singapore worth $400 million or 400 million pounds. Now I just sit there and go, how do you sort of forget that you've got 400 million pounds? He received a 17-month suspended sentence and of course the fine for Bernie Ecclestone. I love Bernie Ecclestone. I really do. I've read everything about him. I've watched everything about him as well. I mean, he's a naughty boy in one or two things, but Bernie Ecclestone changed the face of motorsport, Formula One, and probably professional sport as we know it. The budget cap. We've had so much talk about this budget cap. We found that Red Bull had overspent on the budget cap last year. How is the budget cap going to work? The FIA have released that nobody has overspent on the budget cap. So what is it all about? The FIA has now said that teams can spend more money. But there's a budget. I don't understand. Okay, it's on your screen and I know it's quite small. So let me read the main points. Originally, each team had a maximum spending limit of $45 million for 2024. And this is now all about infrastructure spending, capital expenditure, investments for improvements on the factory wind tunnel simulator. So they're all at $45 million. Now, Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari will be capped at $51 million. McLaren, Alpine, and Aston Martin at 58. AlphaTauri, Sauber, House, and Williams at 65, including, yeah, that's Sauber. So this will create an opportunity for the teams to close the infrastructure gap with the front runners. By 2025, 2026, 2027, and 28, the figures will be reduced to 42 million, 49 million, and 56 million respectively, while in 2029, they will return to equal footing with a maximum of $36 million for all. Okay. So how does that work out for you? I think there's pros and cons to this, especially for the smaller teams, as long as they use that money correctly and effectively. By 2029, which is a long, long time away, yes, eventually all of the teams are only going to be able to spend $36 million in terms of infrastructure capital expenditure. Person who's very much in favor of this is, of course, James Vowles, and he is of the Williams team, doing an incredible job. And he's a person who's come out and said, listen, I really cannot wait to see Pat Fry join the team. Pat Fry, highly respected technical engineer, has worked with teams like Ferrari as well. James Vowles has looked at the Williams team and basically says they haven't spent anything for the last 20 years. So they are desperate for infrastructure change. And now, at least with Dorito Capital, the owners of Williams, they are sitting and saying, okay, if they give us the go-ahead, then we will go forward. It's the only way a team like Williams actually will survive and perhaps be able to move forward. Here is a story that has blown up. Not all is good at Red Bull. Helmut Marko is getting fired. No, Christian Horner is getting fired. Why is there the craziness at Red Bull Racing at present? I've even heard that Max Verstappen has come out and said, if Helmut Marko goes, I'm going as well. So is there this little battle between Helmut Marko as well as Christian Horner? And why has that come about? My assumption is that because of the death of Dietrich Mateschitz, Dietrich Materschitz's son has inherited all of that and maybe isn't as involved in the Formula One team as he would want to be. And don't forget, the 51% shareholders of Red Bull as a company are the Thai owners. So, or 49% are the Thai owners, and maybe they are getting involved. In my opinion, it is because Dietrich Mateschitz is no longer there. Christian Horner has come out and said, well, Helmut Marko can stay as long as he wants to stay at Red Bull. But I tell you, this story is not going to go away, and if you have conflict within a team, this can lead to rumblings and, well, just, what is the word? I'll figure it out or whatever. Discontent, there we go, within the team. And that can go and filter all the way down until it eventually affects all of the drivers as well. So Red Bull got to be careful. A couple of months ago, before the Hungarian Grand Prix, I sat and Gary Formato was with me and we were talking a little bit about Aston Martin and where Aston Martin going. There was talk that Aston Martin would be sold, and then Lawrence Stroll sold some of Aston Martin. Let me take you back to what we said just before the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now, this is another one where I suppose my little forward thinking comes in a bit here, and I'm probably completely off the mark, but we might as well have a talk to it. Lawrence Stroll. Lawrence Stroll, of course, is the father of Lance Stroll. In 2020, he bought Aston Martin. Okay, he bought Aston Martin as a road-going car concern, and of course he bought the Aston Martin Formula One team. His son races for it. Fernando Alonso races for it. They are sponsored by Aramco. Okay, and just so that we know, Aston Martin is owned, majority shareholder is Lawrence Stroll, and there are two other shareholders there, and the one is the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, the same guys who basically started Live Golf, and the other one now is Geely. Geely had a small share in Aston Martin, and Lawrence Stroll over the last month has sold part of his percentage to Geely, which makes Geely a 17% shareholder. Lawrence Stroll is a 21% shareholder. And you've got to ask yourself the question, why has he done this? Now, I don't know. I'm just one of those who just makes up stories, and most probably is a made-up story. Gary, 120 million pounds. That's a whack load of money. And in our South African rands, I mean, that's just like gazillions. But what's 120 million pounds? What does Lawrence Stroll need 120 million pounds for?
Exactly.
Okay.
Not for much.
Not for much. So this is where my spin on this comes. And I might be completely wrong, but I'm going to throw it out there. Why not? Okay. Aston Martin road-going division, and they make magnificent cars, beautiful, beautiful cars. But every car, road-going car that they sell at a loss. And the reason for this is because they have two manufacturing concerns in the UK. and it's just not sustainable. All right, which means that somewhere along the line, they're going to have to close one of them if they want to keep their road going car division profitable. So why not get in big money company like Geely, and perhaps in a year's time, August next year, Lawrence Stroll offloads some more of his shares to Geely. Geely comes in and then does the horrible work of maybe having to close down one of the plants and turns them into a more profitable scenario.
And to follow on from that, now if you are a labourer at Aston Martin and now you've got to close a facility, how do you condone Aston Martin supporting a Formula One project?
Very good point.
You know, now we know the Honda deal is alive and well. Stroll's put that deal together. Maybe Aston Martin's on the way out of Formula One. You know that. I mean, now we're really getting speculative here, but I mean, this could be the case.
It could be. All of a sudden, they sell out to Honda.
Yeah.
Could well be. You know, something like that is not far-fetched.
We'll be on it. We will be the first with that.
You know,
with that.
There we go. We must get Fritz to mark this, and it could well come out as being truthful. So there we go. Quite a lot was said just before the Hungarian Grand Prix, and of course things have even progressed. So the question is, Aston Martin might sell, probably will sell, but to whom? That's the question. So let's have a look at this. There is a picture of Guan Yu Zhou in Aston Martin colours. This makes the most amount of sense. One of their sponsors, of course, is Aramco. That we know is the Saudi concern. Do the Saudis honestly want to buy Aston Martin? We know that they are buying just about all of the sport in the world, so maybe that is potential. However, Geely makes the most sense. They now have got 25% of Aston Martin. If they have a brand like Aston Martin under their brand, under their name, that'll do huge things for them as a company. They seem to have the money that they can actually go and buy it. From there, they also stay in Formula One. They've got a Chinese Formula One racing driver in Zhou. That makes a lot of sense. I believe by the end of this time next year, by November of 2024, we will have an answer to that question. But it's still very, very interesting. Coming up, Eva Green, more on McLaren, and of course, American Grand Prix. Welcome back. Of course, we're coming to you live from our Suzuki Menlyn Park bespoke shop and studio. As you can see, with the lovely Ferrari right next to me, all of the helmets behind me as well, and the calendar just behind me as well. Do yourself a favor, get hold of the people at the Penta Motor Group. They're doing fantastic box specials because the box are doing so well. Get hold of them now. What would a show be without Eva Green? Oh, that's Eva Green. There we go, on the left and the right. Okay, thank you, Fritz. Let's go back to some Formula One. Back to McLaren. A man who was there when Schumacher reigned supreme at Ferrari was or is Andrea Stella. He now is the big boss at McLaren, one under Zach Brown, and he's doing an outstanding job. If you consider how McLaren started the season and where they are right now, Andrea Stella is the man. He's doing an amazing, amazing job. This is a guy who wants to create a super team within McLaren. As I say, he joined Ferrari in the year of 2000. Jean Todt was already there, Ross Brawn was there, Rory Byrne was there, Michael Schumacher was there. It was a dream team, and Stella came in, and Stella saw exactly what Jean Todt, Ross Brawn built, And this is what he wants to achieve at McLaren. And so far, he's doing a stupendous job. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see, hopefully, a victory for Lando Norris before the end of the season. More on the Stroll family. There's been a lot of talk. I mean, even reports have come out that Lance Stroll's mother has said, come on, son, get out of Formula One. You've had too many crashes. Let's go on to something else. Lance Stroll is still a very, very young man. And his father has come out and has defended many of his performances this year, saying he's had a tremendous amount of bad luck. And unfortunately, in Formula One, sometimes this does happen. The worrying factor, besides the bad luck, is the fact that Fernando Alonso has basically, together with Max Verstappen, the only two drivers who have completed every single lap of the 2023 season so far. And I think Lance Stroll, and correct me if I'm wrong, is somewhere around 130 odd points behind Fernando Alonso. And that has to be very, very worrying. But, you know, would you now just go and get rid of Lance Stroll when he's the son of Lawrence Stroll? Of course he's going to get a lot of heat because of that and nepotism. But Lance Stroll, we know, on his day can actually be a pretty decent racing driver. If I was the team boss, Mike Crack, would I go ahead above my boss, Lawrence Stroll, and sit there and say, terribly sorry, Lance, you're out, let's bring in Drogovic or another driver? I'm not entirely sure. I still think Lance Stroll will be there for a while. Now, listen, before we carry on, Fritz, as we know, is the executive producer and director and all of those things. So he's got a friend and like a partner in a guy. His name's Barry. Barry's quite a big guy. He's a grey beard. Hey? Yeah, he's got a bit of a grey beard. But apparently he's quite a little bit of a teddy bear. And he's just started learning about Formula One because he sent me a message going, you know, Senna was rubbish and Ferrari are rubbish or whatever. So clearly he's just beginning stages of Formula One. But apparently he's a really big guy, but he likes to do little miniature, I don't know, models, something like that. So Barry, carry on watching the show because, you know, this will also make you improve your knowledge of Formula One. And then also make me like a little Ferrari car or something. That would be really, really nice. But I promise you, the more you watch Barry, the more you will learn. Okay, moving on. Now, where was I? Mercedes. Oh, no, we've done that. Stroll, there we go. This week, it's Raw Keek. Yes, it is a race week. It is a sprint weekend. And it is in the massive state of Texas. Texas actually even has its own flag. That is the Texas flag. That is that huge viewing deck at the Circuit of the Americas. And Danny Ricciardo is back for AlphaTauri. Yeah, he should go well in Texas. And of course, Lawson will watch from the sidelines. This is very much make or break for Danny Ricciardo. He wants Sergio Perez's seat, because Perez is under a tremendous amount of pressure at Red Bull. So Danny Ricciardo sits and goes, if he can go out there and you know, really do well in the last 4 or 5 races, what do we got, 1, 2, 3, 5 races of the season, he might be able to pick up that Red Bull seat next to Max Verstappen. A team that does want some revenge after Qatar is definitely Mercedes. As we know, Lewis was out at Qatar, admitted that it was his mistake, got a little bit too ambitious, was on a different set of tires, and unfortunately collided with his teammate George Russell. And George Russell drove brilliantly there afterwards. Of course, they all had to do the mandatory pit stops because of the tire issue in Qatar, but George Russell at one stage was the quickest man on the track besides Max Verstappen. We're in America, and of course we do have American representation. Haas is as American pie. They're going to have the stars and stripes in their livery. By the way, Red Bull are also going to have stars and stripes on their livery. But Haas have got a major update. Aston Martin also have a major update. Haas have got such a major update that they are going to be preparing the cars off-site before they actually bring them into the circuit. Why have they waited so long? I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully a lot of the upgrades that are on this Haas car will be something that will be for 2024. This weekend, it is the Circuit of the Americas. Let's have a look at the circuit. I love this place. I really, really want to go there one day. 56 laps, 5.513 kilometers, lots of overtaking opportunities, some very slow corners, but some high-speed corners as well. And let's just have a look at what Mercedes have come out and said what they believe are the speed differentials from 2022 to 2023. Now, I know the graphic is quite small for you, so I'm just going to highlight one or two. At turn 2, the cars will be 45 kilometers an hour faster than in 2022. Okay? And at turn 13, the cars will be 60 kilometers faster than in 2022. Now, just to put that into perspective, there are one or two corners where they will be slightly slower. But those are huge differentials, and just showing you that downforce factor from a car from 2022 to 2023. Pirelli will supply the C2, the C3 and the C4 compound for this weekend. More than likely, we won't have issues that we had in Qatar, and you're probably looking at a C3 and C2 for one-stoppers, but those who are a little bit ambitious might go with a C4. It all depends on what the degradation is, but as you can see, most of the degradation on the left rear tire. More news on Pirelli as well, and I think this is good news for Pirelli fans, and that is Pirelli are confirmed as the tire supplier to 2027. So that is including the first year of the new regulations in 2026. So very interesting that they have sat there and committed to that far. Weather-wise, there's going to be a little bit of cloud. That's all. No rain expected in Austin, Texas this weekend. It's going to be pretty warm, 32 degrees. That means track temperature is going to be right up there in the late 40s, maybe even into the 50s as well. So another very hot race for all of the drivers. And finally, whoa, what a weekend we have. We've got rugby, South Africa playing against England in the semi-finals. We've got cricket, South Africa playing against England in a pool game, which is bizarre. I don't think that's ever happened before. We've got MotoGP from Phillip Island in Australia. What a race last weekend in Indonesia. And then, of course, we have the Formula One sprint weekend. This is when you can catch everything. Of course, it's going to be a pretty late night for all of us. Saturday, we've got the sprint race, which is at midnight. So once you've finished watching the box beat England, then, of course, just go straight on to the sprint race. I think it's going to be an unbelievable Grand Prix weekend and a sporting weekend. For those who aren't sporty, don't know what you're going to do. I know what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Enjoy the Grand Prix. Thanks for all of the comments. Always so fabulous to be with you from the whole production team. Let's go racing.